Okay, hi everyone, Soldier17 here. Let me first, like usual, this is a non-pay video. I made the thumbnails, and I don't do the pictures. Okay, so, here's the thing. I'm basically just gonna try to get at least a good number. I'm trying to get to at least season 2 of this series. Take a break, but I may make another series tomorrow. Well, actually, later today. So, I'm gonna try and make one. Basically, the whole time I was isekai'd into High School DxD. Trying to get that started up. See how it goes. Alright? And then, basically, after I get to Season 2, I may go back to some what-ifs. Old ones, make some of the make some more of those contents for a good while. And then, basically, I'll come back to the Sonic one and try to basically I'm trying to get back into making what-ifs every single day. But I also found a way how to basically upload my YouTube videos faster. I just have to use some of my phone data. Which basically means my Wi-Fi is really slow when I can just do it in like 13 minutes. With data. So yeah. Kinda snappy, don't you think? Snappy? Easy, I guess to say. Don't know why Snappy came into my mind. Meh. Anyways, let's just go through this. This is part 3 of What If issei was the reincarnation of Sonic. Now, as we know from the last video, all I did was just basically said what happened in between the 5 years. Basically, we didn't really go through a lot. We did go through some character deaths and how it happened, but we didn't go through some things. More character development details, basically other people's deaths, just, we haven't gone through a lot of the 5 years, but just good enough to basically kind of like get you guys interested in what happened. But yeah, so Sir Zex basically said he's going to be living in the human world to keep an eye on Issei. What makes sense? I mean, technically his identity crisis or disorder basically kind of would be true. Crisis, disorder, whichever one you want to say, but yeah. So, and well, we do have now basically, also Sonic being happy because you get to learn things new. But still, let's get through this. Oh yeah, also Renair needs to take responsibility, and some feelings are there for Issei. So, yep. This is part 3, though, of What If Issei was reincarnated. So, like I said last time, we left off is Issei kind of basically having some fun, kind of being happy, making a, joke without even realizing it. And basically he just had a laugh at that. Now, Sir Zex, though, is basically still in the room while Zerafel is also talking to Sonia and basically Sabaki, saying they cannot, tell anyone about this situation. If basically they found out, she has they'll basically want to question basically Issei/Sonic, since he's not in the right state of mind, it's not a good idea, which basically they both would nod. And so along with Perrage, because I believe I said they were there, so yeah. If not, then just scratch whatever I say, because I'm not really focusing on that, on them, they're there or not. Okay, but I mean, it would have been enough time for them to appear, so it doesn't really matter now, actually, if I think about it. But anyways. So, basically, Sir Zex, though, is looking at Issei, who's talking to Kiva, Kaneko, and Akano, and basically apologizing to Akano and basically Kaneko about his new life self's actions towards them. Which Akano is saying, basically it's alright, basically most of the guys here are perverts, but I mean, he goes, no, basically Issei saying, no, it's not. Well, Sonic. No, it's not, and basically it's, well, even he can say that, for one thing though, he knows basically that his new self wasn't always like this. When he was a kid he wasn't, and somehow he became like it. So, he just doesn't remember why. But yeah, which Kiba says to him, well, I mean, you can change your image. It's not that badly ruined. Which he says Sonic sighs and he goes like, it technically is. Every girl in this school technically knows I'm a pervert, so it doesn't really matter what I do. But yeah. But Rias is basically not near them. She's basically at her seat, just, well, looking down at the table, which basically Surzax will go over to her and be like, Rias, what's wrong? She looks up and goes, oh, brother. I don't know how to feel about this. Which, basically, he would not say nothing. But no one can hear them because she's basically only saying loud enough for Surzax to hear, even though it's a big room and / small room. I'm talking about height-wise. So, yeah, which basically Surzax will nod in understanding. She basically says, I think my actions would really have become this outcome. I mean, I know devils usually would do something like what I'd done, so I thought it was alright. Which then Surzax would say, but our family doesn't do that. Nor does basically, well, Zeraful's family, or Sonya. Well, Zeraful and Sonya's family. We have to basically be a symbol for the next generation. Which she will nod slowly. She goes, yeah. Can we just go tell Mother and Father what I've done already? I would like to get this over and done with before it becomes any, well, bigger. Which he will nod, but then all of a sudden, before he even says anything, he has an idea. He would want to get permission first from, well, issei / Sonic. Which he turns to, Issei, and he goes, Issei, or, well, Sonic. Which he looks over, he goes like, huh? He goes, you're still in a good mood, right? He goes, yeah, still excited about learning new things, but I'm slowly becoming back to the way you were before. He goes, yeah. What do you need? He goes, well, I want to ask you, would you like to basically do an experiment with, well, the help of my other Double King friend? Which, he raised up an eyebrow, goes like, go on? He goes, you see, I want to see your full capabilities. But the only way I could do that if we basically do some experiments on you. By that, I mean by speed tests. He was like, oh, yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, I don't mind. I mean, technically it's what helped to see what I'm capable of within this new body of mine. So, let's do it. But when he says that, basically they see some form of, well, a grin on his face. It's not a cocky one. It's just like, basically, it's like basically that one time when you can't wait basically to start something up again that you haven't done in a while. So again, excitement. So, Surzax will nod, and basically though, he will basically look at Zeraful and be like, you don't mind basically coming to the Gremory household, would you? Which Zeraful will go, nope, I don't really mind. Since basically we gotta tell basically your parents about this, since basically your father technically was a former basically ruler, which basically, Surzax would nod, and basically he would tell everyone to get together close. Which Issei will like, why? As he basically gets in position, probably near Rias, but he knows Rias is not looking at him. Which he's thinking, she really does feel guilty. As then he activates his, emotion detector or lie detector. Well, emotion / lie detector. As he basically see her basically what emotions are basically over her head. Which is basically guilt, anger, sadness. Basically, disgust, and most of all, fear. He basically then starts to realize he can look deeper into those emotions and basically say what it is. Basically afraid that basically everyone will turn on her, she'll be alone, but also afraid of, basically what issei would turn into that dark form and was actually about to kill her because she literally felt like she was going to die. Which basically he stops using his ability and thinks, I really did let my anger get the best of me. The Master Emerald will say, it was a blind rage, and I can understand how you feel, Sonic. And he does hear all the other emeralds agreeing with the Master Emerald. Which he goes, I know, but still. I may have been basically made my enemies run away from me whenever I came onto the battlefield. Or, when I basically showed them they were losing, they were running, I didn't give them no basically mercy. But still, she's my ally, or basically the Master Emerald says boss, leader, king, which he would say in his head, yeah. First impressions, huh? So he does kind of get a little gloomy at that, which basically the Master Emerald goes, it's not your fault, but she does have every right to fear you when you're in that state. You're in your Fleetway / Dark Sonic form, which she was super form, which you hear basically one says, yeah, pretty much, man. But listen, it's not your fault on that. If you found out basically you were left to die just so you become some basically tool for her, I would have been pissed too. Basically, another Emerald would be like, yep, can't blame you at all. Which another like, yeah, seriously, you can't really blame no one for that. Any normal person or anyone would react to exactly the same way you did. So he kind of chuckles in his head. And a little bit of a smile basically stays on his face. So, basically, without even knowing, since he was on his head, they already teleported, and everyone was just looking at him. He was like, sorry. Would you believe if I told you, basically, since I have the Chaos Emeralds embedded into me and the Master Emerald kind of basically turned to markings on my body, I technically can hear the voices of them in my head? Which serves us to be like, understandable. And basically start walking. Because he just turns around and just start walking, which Sonic's just like, well, that's interesting to know. So yeah, he catches up with them, and basically he's looking around like, so this is the underworld, huh? Not as bad as I thought. Which basically Kiba would nod like, yeah, it's really not that bad. Most people are reincarnated devils here. Oh, and issei. He goes, yeah, Kiba? You sound different. You sound less like your voice is deep. He was like, oh, well, I guess that's because my natural voice, when I'm in Dark Sonic, is a little more deeper, but, I guess when I'm gloomy, everyone basically sounds depressed and, overwhelmed with everything. So I guess my excitement of going new places and adventuring are still inside of me somewhere. Even though it can be a pain in the butt sometimes. I don't mind it, it's just... I like to stay busy more now than I go on adventuring. Which Kiba will slowly nod. So, basically, Sir Zex will start talking about the rest of basically the Gremory household and the other basically houses. And, well, even basically tell him about basically the community that basically they made after all these years. Which, though, issei would actually kind of stop and have a small smile on his face, which that does catch some people's, attention. And he goes, I see. just like my home used to be like. And then he basically starts walking towards them. they can see basically he does. He's trying not to basically let his excitement leave, but there is a small hint of sadness there. Oh, basically, I just want to also mention something. Sonic cannot, well, Sonic slash issei cannot go at, his top speed yet. I forgot to mention that in the beginning of the video, but you'll understand what I mean. He's, his body still needs to adapt to his new powers and speed and such and strength. So there is going to be a limit to him, but the more chaos energy he uses, the more power or the more speed he can go. But right now he's at 300 miles an hour. So, yeah, just want to point that out real quick. So anyways, so they will go to a basically area of the house, which basically will be like a area where basically people can train. As, well, Surzek's already called basically Ajuka, aka Beelzebul, over, which he will basically arrive there when they get there. He goes, Surzek's, which basically Zex will say, Ajuka, I told you you can just call me Zex, even though we have company here. Which he was like, yes, my old friend. So, I brought my equipment with me, and what is it that you need me to do? Which he would basically look at issei, and he steps up. He goes like, this young man is part of basically my sister's parage. He's recent. But there are some things that we need to understand about him that, well, only you can help us with. Which Ajuka will raise up his eyebrow. He was like, really? Explain to me. Which he basically issei slash Sonic will look at Sir Zex and saying, I think I should. Which Sir Zex will nod and step back a bit. Which that would kind of shock, well, Beelzebul, well, Ajuka. He goes, this may sound complicated or really weird, but I'm not technically human, well, in my first life. Which Ajuka just blinking, he goes, I'm staying quiet, but I give him the look like, go on. He was like, my name was Sonic the Hedgehog, the most fastest thing alive. With Ajuka just eyes widen a bit, which issei goes like, you okay? You seem shocked. He was like, you're the blue blur. Which he was like, yeah? Wait, how do you even know about that? He was like, well, back in my younger years, I was an adventurer. I like to travel, basically though, after the war basically ended, I traveled around and I found some ruins. Which he basically saw us blinking and goes like, what type of ruins? Basically, Ajuka would say, well, it was more like they were leaving a message. I didn't know what it was, or who was it meant for, but just saying this. The tale of someone called Sonic the Hedgehog, the greatest hero Mobius. It was like a mural, I believe. It told the tale of you. I couldn't basically see much since it was so destroyed due to time. It was buried deep into a cave. It was a cave? It was, basically, Ajuka was like, yes, but the cave seemed to be made before the war started. I don't know who did it, but they didn't want it to be destroyed. But still, what I heard, or what I basically have read from what you've done, you're a living legend. To meet you in person, even if you are different, I am basically honored to meet you. Which Sonic just chuckles, goes like, oh, that's something. Basically, Ajuka basically looks at him, but with also sadness, and he goes, and I'm sorry for you, for your loss. And also to be in basically a time period where you don't understand much of anything. He goes, well, that's the thing. I still have my, memories as myself as Issei Hudo, but my past memories of myself as Sonic. And I'm trying to decide who should I be, or who I am. and I don't know who. Which this would make Ajuka understand. He goes, you changed basically before the 5-year mark. You changed in the 3rd year. It's understandable. You lost a lot of things, and enough is enough. Which Sonic would nod. So, let's get this testing started, shall we? Which, basically, Issei would just smirk and was like, alright. So, easily though, Ajuka was saying, oh, and don't have to basically try to force yourself to be excited, Sonic. Well, I mean, Issei. Be yourself. Which, Issei would just kind of sigh, be like, so you kind of figure it out, huh? Which Ajuka would not be like, well, I am excited, it's just, I'm used to being this way. Which Ajuka would nod slowly to that. He was like, it's understandable. You don't have to explain nothing to me. Which, yeah. So, Ajuka will basically be setting up some, I would say he'll be setting up some basically devices. Basically, this is to test, an area of testing where everything in this field will basically be surrounded by a barrier that Ajuka will have full control over. And basically he will also have basically a portable controller, which is just a entire computer. Laptop, basically screen. He's able to type in it, and basically everything he types in will basically do what will appear and such, because it's connected to his lab. So, basically, all of a sudden they see Issei moving quickly around, basically, looking at the crystals and such. Basically, go back to Ajuka and be like, so what are those for? Which, basically, just blinking, and he goes like, it seems you can already move pretty quickly. He goes, yep. But I don't think I'm basically on my full power yet of speed. It seems a little bit off. It's like my body is not truly at the 100% mark. Which, Ajuka will ask, how did you come back? Your memories, and everything else. So he will explain basically how Fleetway did it. Which, in a sense, he'll make a theory. He goes like, maybe he said he gave you back everything, but your human body needs to adapt to everything. Your strength and your speed, and the power fluctuating in you, will also be a process of this help. The more, of this chaos energy, or magic you use, the more your body will adapt to it, and you'll be back at 100%, but we need to see if there be any side effects so you don't have any long-lasting damages. Which, easily would not today, I understand. Which, basically, Rias is just shocked by Beelzebub's understanding and come up with a theory of it right away, which, basically, Sonya was saying, it makes sense. He just recently came back, so he wouldn't be 100% back to, his old life's power. But still, the power he can emit, it's strong enough to basically, to rival high-class devils, even superior devils, basically in power. Which Rias will be like, yes, I think he's more powerful than me, though. Which, basically, that would just shock, everyone there. That basically was part of Sonya's Parage. But not Tsubaki. But just give me a minute, I want to check something out. Which, basically, though, Akano will be like, but you're ultimate class devil. Which Rias will technically nod to that. But, technically I needed to check to see which I was right, but, I was wrong. Ultimate class devil. So, Sonya and Akano will say that. Which, basically, Issei is more focusing on, Ajuka, since basically Ajuka is actually putting things on Issei. Basically, he puts some things on his hand, but that will have, little, wires that have loops that have to go on, around his, over his fingers and such. Basically, they'll go to his shoulder. Issei kind of already told him about, don't mind the gems in him, those basically are the Chaos Emeralds, which basically he would put a strap around his shoulder, would not basically touch the Chaos Emeralds at all. He basically would then put one basically thing that would go onto his head, down his back, down his neck, down to his back, and then basically stop, which there are basically like suction cups on the devices that like are circles and such, and and they basically will stick to the body of the person. And he'll do the exact same thing to his left arm and such. And basically for the leg, he just basically puts something, that would be go around his ankle, up his leg, and it basically stops. Basically, and to a belt, which issei would have to put on and such, where basically that thing that would stop at his back would basically attach to it too. So basically, some wires will be attaching to basically the shoulder ones and such. And he was like, "All right, everything's all right." He goes, "Yes. Just let me just see what this does let me just basically see if everything's working properly." Which he was like, "So what does it do, Ajuka?" It was, well, the thing is, basically, this one will scan your basically body, and also it will regulate basically your speed and strength. It would see if you basically even what type of devil you are due to, well, how should I say this? I have a feeling something happened that I don't know yet. Which, basically, Zara was like, yeah, Rice's basically barrage pieces, her 8 pawns, suddenly was starting to glow green as they basically came around issei, and then his body absorbed them. Which, his eyes were wide, like, fascinating. It's probably just due to basically, well, as you know, as chaos energy, since Stella is basically, as you would say, can you say the year? As then he does go like, yes, that basically year, our powers, basically our magical power increased. So, as you very probably assumed, basically our power or magic is basically a diluted form of chaos energy, which, if you can use it, you can also use any spells that we have created, or, well, even the angels probably even created too, which, basically everyone will be shocked, especially Sir Zex, but Ajuka was then say, but that is a theory. I do not know yet. We have to talk to basically, well, an archangel to see, which issei would nod slowly to that. Well, issei Sonic. Basically, meanwhile, he was like, okay, so he can use any magic, and that means he include holy? That should be impossible for a devil. But then Reese be like, but the barrage pieces were glowing green, so he may not be truly a devil, basically, by our standards. Which Sonya would like, and we don't know basically if basically Rias is right, issei may be stronger than her, even though she's an ultimate class devil. Which Akano and Konako are just being quiet. Mostly in their minds, they're thinking just, maybe if they're right, if he is, then he'd be the very first one that didn't need to go through ranks. Or basically took many years to even become this. But to be fair, though, they also realize he basically has experience, he has knowledge of combat, and basically he would have the power to do so. So yeah. Okay, I have to do something real quick. I need a drink. So yeah, moving on. So anyways. So basically, while they're thinking that, Ajuka will be like, now then, all systems seem to be working fine, and basically it's connected. Now we should start the scan. You will feel, slight bit of basically magical energy that basically will go through you. Basically, this is basically just the scanning process. And I basically already will calculate basically the Chaos Emeralds and along with your markings of the, as you would say, Master Emerald. Which this will also scan your skeleton structure, muscles, and everything else to see if there's, anything else like basically the devil pieces. Which issei will not. So, he starts to scan, and after a few minutes, basically, Ajuka's already in shock. He was like, incredible! Which issei was like, is everything alright? He goes, yes, it's just, you're triple jointed. Well, maybe quadrupled, aka 4 times conjointed. But most likely tripled. which he's like, huh? Well, you see, as I know, basically you had something called a spin dash and a homing attack, which you basically jumped into a ball and attacked, and you would also basically grab a ring, basically, and then start spinning in midair. Which issei was like, yeah. Well, by the way, you don't have to worry about the machine. Well, basically, these technologies, they also will conform to your body and shape. So you may try basically do a spin dash. He's like, alright. So he would do it like normal. And yes, I did make it where he could still do all of this. I don't know basically how much, I only know triple or maybe 4 times conjointed, but whatever way it is for him to basically become fully, like, himself, yeah, I'm just saying triple because I think it's most likely. So yeah, he's able to spin into a ball, which everyone is shot, and then all of a sudden, when basically he releases, he's able to go basically fast, well, basically go around and even control it, and then we see, he's like, after he basically comes back, he's like, I did it! Hold up. Is there any targets I can try to hit? Which, basically, Ajuka just smirks, as then he basically puts in a few, well, actually does a few things, as then all of a sudden in the cube that he controls, because the crystals activate making the barrier, which he goes, there you go, they will appear right about now. So, there's these, well, not basically human-like robots, but basically human shape, well, yeah, human size and almost human shaped robots, and basically flying enemies too, which basically that just makes him blink, and then he looks at Ajuka, and he has a faraway look, which basically Ajuka's like, is everything alright? He goes, you just remind me of somebody. So he just says, alright, let's get this party started then. So he gets into the barrier. He just starts stretching, basically, does what he would normally do before a fight. And basically, Ajuka basically asks, are you ready? Which someone puts a thumbs up, which they kind of know he's not basically talking. Which Sirius X would go over to Ajuka and be like, this must be when he, his serious mode, we would call it. But Ajuka would be like, no. This is who he became during the 5-year war. He won't mess around. Which Sirius X will nod slowly. So, he goes, I'm activating the robot, Sonic. Which he just basically goes, let's get this over with. Which even the tone of his voice suddenly changes. It's not cold, but it's just basically iron steel. Like, basically, what he does now, he's not basically, not holding back, but he, it's not like that. He's just like, he's not gonna basically care what everyone thinks of him. So, in a sense, he activates the robots. Their commands were basically attack what's the one who's in front of you. So, basically, one of them would have basically a blaster try to shoot him. He dodges easily, but then he realized he shouldn't because they were basically right behind him. So he looks back quickly and he sees basically the blast hits basically the the wall, it disappears. Which basically he wants to sign relief, but he knows he can't do that right now. As he dodges another attack by basically dodge rolling out of the way. Basically, when he basically gets in a position and crouch on the ground, he just smirks and then suddenly, he not disappears, but he makes a blue trail, punching the robot, grabbing it, thrown into it, grabbing basically a blaster, aiming at basically a flying attack enemy, shoot it. But the fact is, another basically flying enemy shoots down his gun, destroying it, basically throws it to the side, like, he just jumps up and basically home attack it. And then basically, after he hits it, it doesn't go down, he notices, which he knows how to deal with basically tougher enemies by then basically slam his foot into the ground with chaos energy, send it flying down, destroying that one. And before he's able to basically, even land, basically one enemy basically that's remaining flying would, try to hit him. And, well, this is where something unique happens. Basically, it's not an after image, since he technically Sonic can basically not, well, he can boost dash out of the way or dodge, but I want to say this is what a little trick he learned in the war, which I may be taking some, attack stuff from Dragon Ball Z, but to be fair, you know. So, in a sense, when the flying enemy gets near him, he basically then, all of a sudden, well, does basically a technique that, he learned when flying enemies, came at him. It's not a barrier, but it's just, he just snaps and doesn't, not a chaos control with himself, but just not with himself, but with another enemy of his, which it hits the enemy, basically destroying the one it hits, and the flying one as he lands, wait, hold up. Because he lands on his feet, because he switched places, he just smirks. So, in a sense though, he basically just has his hand coated in chaos energy, and then just all of a sudden, he basically would turn around so quickly, because the one where robot would have a sword, he just says, Chaos Spear! And just launch it towards basically the robot, destroying it. Basically, that took care of the enemies, which basically, after, that's done, the robots would disappear. He comes out, which basically, well, Azazel, not Azazel, I mean, Ajuka is looking at the data, and Surzex is just looking at him while, Sonic is just wondering if he did everything okay, and if there's anything wrong with him, which Ajuka was like, fascinating, simply fascinating, I cannot believe this, which Surzex was like, is everything alright? He goes, yes, everything is absolutely fine. His body seems to basically be able to handle the chaos energy perfectly fine. No, basically, problems at all. But his power strength is not what it would be. As I was right, his body is slowly adapting and slowly making him basically self due to the changes of his basically structure it is just at the moment. Which, he goes, wait, so you're constantly seeing what's happening to me? He would say, he was like, of course. Basically, how should I say this? Since you use chaos energy, your body adapted pretty quickly to it. So he was like, so that means, yes, Sonic, you're not at 100% as you thought. I do not know what the level of speed you can go, but we'll figure that one out when I basically do a little bit more adjustments to, well, what you are wearing. Which basically has him nodding. Is there anything else? He goes, well, simply put, your reaction time is, well, good. But it seems like you had basically also used your instincts and experience from your previous battles. Which he goes, yeah, I did. Also, I do basically have this thing where I basically kind of use chaos energy to help my ears. So I basically would know where my enemies are. I'm also basically was kind of trying to learn basically an ability that I had someone helping me. He said it was a technique he basically made during the help of the war. It was a sensing ability. Since he said he wasn't the strongest, but he was very basically tanky type person, he said he needed to know where all his enemies were, so he said he was trying to do a pulse sensory. That's what he said it, but I didn't get it at first, and probably now I would. Which basically serves as what does this mean? He was like, well, he said he would basically put a large amount of energy in his foot, and then he would, shoot into he would then shoot it outwards from his foot, and basically get a mental image of where everything is. See how many enemies are, where they are, and how far are they from him. Which I didn't know how he would be able to do it, but he said he was pretty good at it, since he basically, was very good at battles. Fighting, basically. Which just basically would just make Ajuka and Surzex blink, and then nod slowly. And basically, Surzex was asked, so you're trying to basically learn it? He goes, yeah, I didn't think it was the best. I can't do it that far like he could. But, I mean, it does help when you're in a tight pinch. When you basically are blind by smoke and such. So yeah, so basically Ajuka like, Also, I also checked basically the double pieces you have. Is there any problems with them? He goes, well, that's the thing. They are there. Your evil pieces are there, but well, I believe since the chaos energy was flown and it was activated, they become more mutation types instead of just regular ones. And they're not ordinary mutations. Seem to have basically the insinuation of chaos, the chaos emeralds on them. Plus the eighth one having the symbol basically of, as basically what I read of the Master Emerald being like, not energy flow in them, just the power of the chaos energy in them is just showing that, which makes Sonic very confused. Basically, Ajuka would then basically clarify more, but I said markings, saying basically because the chaos energy awakened. I'm not saying basically they are basically like the Master and Chaos Emeralds. So we cannot know for sure, but I do know one thing. You basically are superior to most devils, maybe even ultra class devil, which that would kind of shock Sir Zex, which he says like, is I supposed to be like the highest ranking? Well, just ultra, double rank. But yeah, anyways. Which Sir Zex would be like, yes, it is. Well, nearly or is one of our highest rankings. Which Sonic would be like, cool. So, is that a bad thing? Which, to be fair, he has to basically be like his old self, slash, I'm talking about old time before the war, slash, be a little bit of both along with issei. Just for the moment, he won't realize he's doing it. Which, basically, Ajuka will be like, yes, if any basically devil families heard about this, you would be, have a line of basically girls after you. Which he's like, fangirls? Which Sir Zex will be like, worse, marriage contracts. Just so they can basically have a political powerhouse in the future. And also, if the Devil Council found out about your existence, they may try to make you have multiple, wives, right? Which he nods. He goes, well, I didn't figure that was gonna happen to me. But Sir Zex be like, do not worry. I don't think basically they'll find out so quickly unless you let them. Which is like, true. Basically though, Sir Zex will be like, so, how do you determine basically his pieces are basically like this? Which, basically Ajuka was saying, when I took a look at them further, due to their magic levels, they were off the charts from a normal basically mutation piece. I think it was like if basically we're talking about a generation of basically evil piece. Basically when they created their first generation, a mutation piece is second. But these, they were pushed to the brink, because they were about to break. Which that would shock them. But basically a weird energy basically made sure they wouldn't. So they were basically physically enhanced. To the point of fifth generation, as we could call it. Which, that would shock everyone. This also may give you some unique abilities. So, we have to basically figure this one out basically by time. So yeah, Issei's like, alright, well, that sounds like an easy plan. So yeah, anyways though, Ajuka will be like, nah, well since we basically did your combat speed, combat speed, reflexes, and basically reaction time, we're going to test out your speed. And then we'll test it out all together. Alright? Which Issei would nod, Issei/Sonic. So Ajuka will come in basically with a few things added on to basically the gear Issei has on. Basically after he gets back to the computer, he activates them and you're like, alright, this will basically send me information on how fast you are going. You just have to run around basically as fast as you can. which issei would nod slowly. So he will go back in the cube, and then basically Ajuka will basically then have a scenario pop into it, which issei, will be able to move around, but he's like in the cube and such, and it's not like an infinite space. Basically, it's only around the cube and such, but it feels like he's moving but not moving. So Ajuka basically scream will appear mid-air, be like, this is a scenario basically to see your top speed, or where you are at the moment. You must basically start from the goal in front of you and all the way down around basically a certain loops. And issei goes like, basically random terrain pieces where I'm going to have to dodge, jump off, and basically get to the goal in the fastest point in time. Right? He's like, yes. Basically referencing the video games. So, he just smirks, he's like, well, they don't call me the fastest thing in life for nothing. So, basically, when issei gets in the starting line, basically, Ajuka was saying, on your mark, get set, go! As issei starts running. Basically, Ajuka would have the screen follow him and tell him he can go as fast as he wants. Did not basically hold back, which he's like smirking, he's like, alright then. So, he starts to speed up faster and faster and faster. Basically, he's moving very fast where the blue streak is happening, and it seems like basically, a figure 8 is there, but it's just him moving his legs really fast. But he's moving so fast, basically it's kind of hard to see him for basically some people. It's 300 miles an hour. Which Ajuka is shocked by this. He's like, in a matter of minutes, he's able to go faster than 300. I said faster than, I meant near 300 miles an hour. As basically when issei's in the middle of it, he then basically, starts running basically to the point where his body feels a little bit different. He's thinking, what the? Feels like I can't move faster, like this is my limit for right now. Basically, though, he basically would get a sense, basically, how fast he's going. He's only 300 miles an hour. Yeah, I'm definitely slower. It's a good thing, basically, I did wear those devices Tails gave me. This helped me basically realize how fast I'm going, based on my speed. So when basically back with Ajuka, he was like 300 miles an hour. As I already said, he basically is not his full peak, but that's to be understandable. So basically, issei will finish the goal. Jump, his acrobatic skills, also other reflexes and such. But still, it was shocked to see basically issei run, because he's doing what you would be doing in the games, jumping off of stuff, basically landing, basically on certain, shortcuts to get faster timing and such, and, basically just having a good time running. Felt good to basically go on a run, so, yeah. Basically, after that, the simulation ends, and issei comes out, and basically Ajuka looks at him and goes like, well, my theory is correct, and how fast you were going was, as issei finished this, sentence says 300 miles an hour. Which he just blinks, he was like, how? But issei basically just tells him, well, Tails made me made these devices for me to help me, get stronger to get stronger, but I didn't wear them due to the fact that I would become slower since it would siphon off my chaos energy. Basically means it's also will take my stamina also. So I didn't really have basically enough juice in the tank, as you would say, or enough basically stamina to basically go fast. I had to basically study myself and keep my speed under control to the point where I fully understood how fast I was going, basically, if I went top speed. But all I knew was when I broke the sound barrier, I only moved at 750 miles an hour, making a sonic boom. Which Ajuka would nod to that. Wait, give me a minute. So he was like, do you need a break? He was like, yeah, just a little one. So issei sits down and basically mentally prepare himself for the next thing, and also try to figure out, how can he's going to increase his speed. The Chaos Emeralds basically, plus the Master Emerald, slightly glow a bit, but then stops, which everyone knows, including Sonic / issei, which he asked the Master Emerald and the Chaos Emeralds what did they do. Basically, the Master Emerald saying, well, to help further basically your progression with everything, we gave you a slight buff, you would call it. Which he was like, buff? Why would you give me a buff? Come on. Alright, so anyways, like I was saying, a buff? Which basically one of the Chaos Emeralds will say, yes, imagine it just like this. The buff will basically help you increase your speed, strength, and all of that faster, instead of basically it would be. So he's like, so if I move like 300 basically miles per hour, instead of 310, I'll move 350, which basically another one would say, yes, exactly like that. But it may be 400. It depends on how much chaos energy was used and such. So then he goes, which the Master Emerald saying, yes, basically this means you'll be able to get stronger faster. We basically want you to get stronger faster, so whatever you can be prepared for, you would be. Whatever you need to prepare for, you will be prepared. Hold up, I think I got a bug in my room. And I don't know where it went. Never mind. Alright, so he's like, thanks. They all say no problem. So, after his quick little rest, basically Ajuka was like, well, Sonic, this basically robot I'm basically bringing here is something that Sirius X uses to help him out to keep his skills basically not to go rusty. So, this one will be the most powerful one I've created. Which, well, he would nod. So he will go back into basically the cube, and, well, unknown to anyone. Meanwhile, basically someone came to visit just to get to know her future sister-in-law's, future sister-in-law parents. In which, basically, she was leaving, which she would basically pass by and her basically explosion and such, and well, watch what was happening. So, she's basically shocked and now curious. So, she would basically would appear behind them, but no one knows since they are basically, basically distracted by what's going to happen with Issei. So back to Issei, Sonic, he's basically gets in a cube and basically gets into his in his fighting mode. So, when the robot appears, the AI be like, Lord Beelzebub, this is not Sir Zex I'm fighting. Basically, Beelzebub will like, I'm sending the data now. Well, basically, I think he'll call Crimson. So after Crimson gets all the data, he goes, understand. Force needed. Level 4. Which basically, Sir Zex be like, level 4? She had to start him off on level 1. Which Sir Zex will say to Beelzebub, but he will basically say, we do not know the full extent of his power, so this would be a good thing. He will look at Sonic, is this alright? Which Sonic would not. Well, Sonic / Issei would not. So, hold up. So, sorry about that though, bug, but anyways, what happens now is, they're over like, basically affirmative has been said. Thank you for fighting me, Issei Hudo. Which, he will just say, it's an honor to fight you. You remind me of a robot named Omega or Metal Sonic. Which basically this was kind of shocked everyone else because he never said anything about Metal Sonic. Only basically someone called Metal. So Konako will be like, maybe that's the full name. Basically, we're just like Metal Sonic, but basically he was saying weird. But only Ajuka would know, goes like, Metal Sonic, the one that basically is supposed to be a copy of him. Which Sir Zex will understand. So, the AI, like, I do not know who this Omega is, or Metal Sonic, but I will be your opponent. I am Crimson. So, in a sense, Sonic gets, Sonic slash Issei gets in a battle stance and be like, bring on, you tin can. So, this basically, he was trying to bait the robot into fighting him, but, it knows it knows this tactic. So, it fires a long range, basically, chaos, not chaos, but power of destruction blast at him. There we go. I was about to say destruction blast, but it was like, basically, Cersei's power of destruction. So, basically, he would dodge it, basically, and he's like, what the? Cersei's like, you found a way how to make artificial power of destruction. Which Beelzebub aka Ajuka, would just nod. He's like, yes, it's not basically as strong as yours or your not daughter's, sister's power, but still, it's good enough to basically to destroy something. Which basically, Sonic gets up. He's like, I think I'm gonna have to take you a little bit serious. Which Crimson would nod, or basically give a blinking sign as a yes. So, all of a sudden, basically, Issei's Sonic's body starts to technically vibrate a bit. It looks like blurred up for a bit, which everyone's like, huh? And then all of a sudden, he just moves faster. Which, basically, this feels all very strenuous on his body. Well, feels a little bit strenuous on his body. And as such, he basically goes right past the robot, which there's basically sounds of a hit, which he used his fist. Basically, he just then turns it immediately by, spin dashing, basically drifting, and then basically, going right back into it a little bit more faster, basically punching it this time, and it's basically a little bit more dented, which Crimson, speed calculation where his angle shall be, activate Earth Magic, Earth Wall, basically. As with this, Issei kind of just, scowls, but, try to figure out what he's going to do next, but in a sense, though, he's not letting to stop him. So he just then basically spins in mid-air, basically going right through, the wall, as then, all of a sudden, he gets hit by a power of destruction, which sends him flying into the wall. He's like, "Ka!" Because he just lands on the ground, and he's like, that hurts a lot. As basically, he sees, black and red coming off of him, on his chest, but then he basically goes to it, touching it, and then all of a sudden, though, it's like green energy basically going into his body now, which he gets up in size, which Ajuka's like, amazing, he can absorb our magic? That simply is amazing, no one's able to do that. Which that was shock, as Issei then, all of a sudden, basically, he feels his chaos energy in his body, starting to go very wild. Even Ajuka seeing this, and Cersei's seeing it, which basically, he asked, what's wrong? He was like, it seems like his power, no, his double pieces, they're reacting to the magic. And all of a sudden, basically, Issei's body starts to glow and emit basically crimson green energy off of him. Which, he's like, what the? All of a sudden, basically, the Master Arm goes like, but the chaos energy we awakened by being in the presence, we awakened it, and basically, as basically Ajuka said, it made them basically become mutation piece, fifth generation. Well, basically fifth generation evil pieces. So, fourth generation, basically mutation piece. It's reacting to the magic and handleize it and make it your own. Which Ajuka basically would just say, I think the evil pieces did something to the magic. When basically, as soon as he touched it, it went absorbed into his body, so that means he's like, it must have analyzed it, made the power, his own. Which, it may be an artificial power destruction, but still, with it doesn't matter if it's with him, it doesn't matter if it's artificial. So Issei just gets up and he just smirks. And then basically all of a sudden he has this black and green, well, instead of the red lightning or anything's on it, coming off as green basically and red. That's why it's a mixture between basically the green and red outline with basically the black in the middle. He goes like, take this! And it shoots off the blast like it's basically, a chaos, basically energy ball. Which, basically Crimson basically already understood how the danger level of it and dodges. And it says that was basically similar to basically the power of destruction. Note, do not basically fire magic at him. Get in a close range. Which Issei saw smirks. You're like, I really can't believe that actually worked. I didn't know I could actually do that. Absorb magic was an idea I thought was just, would have been basically took some time. But I really got ahead into basically Fleetway. His memories and basically power are really amazing. So, in a sense, he sees basically Crimson basically dashing towards him. Issei just smirks dash towards, and in a sense though, they see a chaos energy blade in it, Issei's hand, and he just attacking Crimson basically with it, while Crimson also has a blade of, with him. So, basically a reference to, kind of a, I know I did that from Dragon Ball, but he has enough chaos energy to do it. So, yeah, anyway, so basically everyone's in shock. Beelzebub's like amazing. It seems basically the more chaos energy he uses, basically it will increase his basically body, resistance and strength and durability plus his speed and strength. Well, I already say strength twice, but speed too. Reaction time basically will also increase due to this. But since he's constantly using chaos energy now, and along with basically the magic input, it seems basically he can go beyond basically his 300 basically miles per hour, which that would just shocked everyone, including their mysterious guests that watching. So, basically the fight goes on for a few minutes, and now basically Crimson basically does a body enhancement magic, and then basically dashing towards Sonic, but it looks like basically he's using energy, using magic to dash at him, and he's thinking, let's see if I can handle this. So he basically goes towards Crimson. They basically are clashing together, trying to basically see who is faster, which Crimson is basically using more magic basically to get, pushing Sonic back, but then he basically keeps on pushing forward to the point where he basically starts to use basically the boost. And that is where he's basically pushing himself. He had to use the boost, which the Master Emerald and Chaos Emerald tell him not to, and he's basically, uses it. He's going up faster. Basically, he's going to a point where he's feeling uncomfortable, like something bad's about to happen, which, right when basically he pushes basically Crimson away, all of a sudden he stops, he's on his knees, and he basically starts feeling not good, and he starts coughing up blood, and then, Beelzebub see his life, let's see basically his readings and know basically something was wrong. He was have to, he basically tells a command from Crimson to basically stop, and Crimson does, which basically when he's running in along with, because like I said, he knows what basically that he pushed himself beyond his body's limit. So in a sense, everyone's worried. Besides the mysterious person, which basically when Beelzebub gets up to him, Ajuka would get up to him, he just sees that him throwing up blood, which is like, Issei, are you alright? He's like, I don't feel so good. So, basically, he'll look at Sirius X and tell him to get someone here to heal him, or get a Phoenix tier. In which they all here be like, well, I want some answers, so I don't mind giving you one. When they look over, which shock all of them, Ravel's there, and, technically, not just her, will be technically Zoltix, Vanilla, Griffia, and Melikis. So, basically, Zerzak sighs and be like, I have a lot of explaining to do, he says to himself. So, in a sense, though, she goes over and gives basically Issei Phoenix tier, but due to him, basically this happening to him, he is gonna still go, go to the infirmary and have someone look at him, and they'll get answers. But still, basically, she is quite curious on who this person is. But the power she felt, it wasn't normal, and he basically felt really strong, like an ultimate class devil. So, in a sense, though, Sir Zax will take him to an infirmary that basically will probably be in the house or such, because of training. And there's doctors there. Well, at least some doctor there that will basically, be there. If not, then probably just have someone get basically a doctor there or such. Because the way how I see Phoenix Tears do, they get rid of, they can save you from life and death, and Issei basically has walked off of it after being chomped down by Fenrir. So, that bleeding should have still been in his body, but since it wasn't, it should not be there based on this one. But still, they just get a doctor just to take a look at him. So meanwhile, while everyone basically, while that's happening, Zoltix would basically ask his son, basically near what would be basically where the doctor will come into the room and tell them, right across the room where Issei is, Issei/Sonic room. While the doctor's checking him out, see if everything's alright. He's like, "My son, who's that boy?" He's like, "Well, that is Rias' new pawn. And, he has quite a story to tell." Which Ajuka will be like, "Yes, of all the data I've gathered, we should not let no one know about his existence. Well, at least for right now." Which Benelino asks, "What do you mean?" Which basically even Ravel asks, "Yes. What?" Which Ajuka would say, "To be fair, Lady Phoenix, I do not think you are needed here due to the fact that this is basically the House of Gremory's member, not yours." She wants to say something, but she sighs, and I would think the attitude and the arrogance the way she had at first would suddenly disappear. She goes, "How dangerous is this if anyone knows?" Like, generally being curious, which, in a sense, he would say the Devil Council will basically use him for, anything. Even try to brainwash him or try to get them under their thumb. Or even other people would. Heck, female devils may even try to just have as basically children just so they can, have some claim of power apart that will basically take on a new Devil Council, or basically to be part of a family of other devils. Which, Zoltus was he cannot be that powerful. Which, Sir's actually for now at least, he's not that powerful. How fast was he going when he pushed himself? The amount of speed he was going, the power he was also emitting, he was only at basically 550 miles an hour. That's where his body couldn't handle it no more. Which, that would kind of shocked everyone in the room. And basically, Vanilla asked, "But how? No one, not even the devil can move that fast." Which, basically, Sirza says there's a lot to explain. And Lady Phoenix, I will have to basically use a seal on, magical, spell on you to make sure you'll never tell no one about this. Which, if she thinks about it, then she will not. So, in a sense, he basically would say, do the magical spell that would basically say, after this information, it's given to you, you'll hear something like a click saying the spell has been complete. Which she would basically say, "Alright." So, they go into detail on what happened. Saying what happened when Issei, and basically his story, and then even basically about what Rias did. Well, basically that kind of shocked her parents, including Ravel, which, in a sense, Venona asks Rias, why did you? Which basically Sir Zex was saying, to be fair, she doesn't want to be with Riser. And, no offense to you, Lady Phoenix, I don't even agree with basically what the Devil Council was willing to do, along with our parents not trying to fight back. Which, basically, she's not saying nothing, but she kind of understands the situation. Though her father, Zoltix will ask, why? So she says the reason why, basically, to them. Telling them straight up that they basically, she thinks no one sees her for her, Rias, not just Rias Gremory, part of the Gremory family, not basically for her herself. And not basically her title, her status, not even for her body, just seeing who she is as a person. In which that would kind of shock them and be looking a little bit upset because they do see that. But Venona kind of understands this. Basically, Ravel basically kind of is mad at her. They're saying basically what she thinks her, basically saying that her brother is basically not worthy of her. But then she'll ask a question, like, so why do you hate my brother so much? He will just basically Rias will just say he only cares for me. Basically, by what I say by me is my body. That's all he cares for. He doesn't care for nothing else. Not my happiness, not my joy, not how I feel. Which Ravel blinks, and then she kind of thinking about basically all the times her brother, acted, and she kind of starts to realize basically, she kind of thinks, Rias is right, but Rias can't win against her brother. But then she remembers that issei, and she basically sighs because she can't tell her brother this. But to be fair, this means she doesn't know what else happened. Which then serves us for he's definitely dealing with identity crisis, or disorder as you would. Which basically Tsubaki would, say, yes, he doesn't know if he's Issei Hudo or basically Sonic the Hedgehog due to basically his past colliding with his present. Which basically Zoltix and Vanellina would not, and understanding along with Ravel. So, basically basically Ajuka basically would say then, and Sir Zex, and basically Zerafol came here to basically inform you basically what happened to Rias, involving basically Issei Hudo / Sonic, and basically a test to see where he's at. Which, this would kind of basically, kind of lead up to their point of view, which basically, Zoltix asked his son, so, how are you going to proceed with this? Which kind of shocked everyone when Sir Zex tells them, besides, everyone that doesn't know this, he goes, oh, I'm moving to the mortal world, and I'll keep an eye on issei. Which will shock his parents along with Ravel. But his mom saying, but dear, you're basically, he's like, I'll be, coming back and forth, don't worry. Which Griffey will be like, and you were going to tell me when? He goes, after the whole entire testing, and basically to, see your thoughts on it. To be fair, though, it would be nice to basically have Milkis to actually meet people that don't know who he is and won't basically, try to suck up to him. Which, basically, Griffey would say, though, what about our enemies? He goes I'll change my look. And I'll also basically go by a different name. Along with basically, I want you to basically change your look, too. And Milk Kisses. Which you would nod to that. Which, basically, the doctor, a few minutes would come in, saying about Issei is technically just resting now and such. And also, basically, Ravel did hear the click, but basically, they will go into the room to wait till he's waking up, which what happens next is after like I would say 30 minutes, he wakes up. He was like, everything hurts. Basically, before anything happens, he closes his eyes, and a green energy starts to go around him. And then, basically, he just sighs in relief. He was like, much better. When he opens up his eyes again, he sees everyone there. He was like, hi. How long was I out for? Which basically sort of starts to say a couple of hours. It's like, oh. Who are you? 5? Which serves as like, oh, let me introduce them. This is basically my mother, father, Zoltix, and basically Venona, Gremory. Which they would say greetings. Zoltix would say, and Venona would be like, hello. And then they said, this is, well, Griffia, my queen piece. Or, well, my wife. Which she was saying, hello there, issei. And basically he was saying, this one is my son, Melikis. Melikis is just looking at issei. Basically he was like, hi. He's like, you're cool. He's like, huh? Well, I heard what you did from Auntie, and you sound really cool. He was like, I'm pretty alright. Not as cool I used to be. But I'm alright, kid. He's like, can you do something really, different from anyone with magic? He's like, yeah. Look. Basically, issei would just kind of basically use chaos energy flow into his hand, and make an energy ball, but then morph it into something, and it looks like a little dog, basically running on his hand, and then it just disappears. Which Milk is just blinking, like, that is awesome. He just chuckles at that. So he goes, so how was the test results? Basically, Ajuka would say, everything's going fine, and basically discovery that you can absorb magic and then make it your own. Plus, the fact is, basically, you move past 500. Well, you move into 560. And beyond that point, you would have killed yourself. Which issei just sighs and be like, so I can't go above basically 300. And if I do, then I basically would use chaos energy to basically keep myself physically enhanced, which then would increase the process to a point where I can basically go beyond 400, which Ajuka would not. And then he looks like, and this blonde hair, curl blonde hair, dress girl, shows, my name is Ravel Phoenix, the daughter of Riser Phoenix, aka Birdbrain, aka Chicken Wings. He's like, how dare you say that? He goes, meh, I dare so much, just I don't care for the guy. Sounds like a just regular old jerk to me. Which, basically she's like, we are a noble family, and he was like, and I don't care. I mean, in one of my parallel selves, I'm technically a prince. Which, that shuts her up. She was like, huh? He was like, oh, yeah, there's a lot you don't know. There's multiple different dimensions, well, parallel worlds out there, which Ajuka and everyone else just blinks. He's like, you're joking, right? He goes like, nope. You see, I know about them, my alternate versions of myself, because I've been to, well, a different world. An evil counterpart of myself called Scourge now. Which, basically, Rias were like, there's other versions of you? He was like, yeah, some are mean, some are nasty, some are just plain old evil, but there's a lot of good ones too. In one of my adventures, I accidentally met someone, because this is not joking. In one of the comics I basically saw, by accident, when I was watching YouTube, basically they say that Sonic met Spawn. I am not joking. Someone may say I'm wrong, but you can find out, and yeah, no, Sonic met Spawn. And he was like, and I met someone called Spawn. It's kind of weird, but meh. Which, just like, everyone just blinking, which Ajuka was like, so the multiverse theory was real. Which was, yeah, I don't know how basically they feel about this new world, though. Some basically alternate versions of myself's worlds go differently. Timeline's different. I mean, there's all these there's also separate zones. Which Ravel was like, zones? He was like, yeah, special zones. Another dimension, you can call it, basically, where it's not affected by time and space. Which, that just shocks her. and everyone else. So he was like, but anyways, he gets off the bed, just stretches, he's like, I'm hungry, got any food to eat? Which, in a sense, Banana would just say, yes. I can have someone basically whip up something, well, make you something. Whip up, or, So he's like, alright. So, in a sense, he eats, he gets to know basically Banana, Zoltix, and Raffle, and he goes like, wow, your brother sounds like a real pain in the butt to deal with. She was like, hey, it's not his fault that he's a pervert. She was, yeah, which Konako would be like, you were a pervert too. He was like, yes. I probably still am, though. That's the disappointing part of me. I don't like. Which, basically, Kaneko's like, you are disappointed in yourself for being that. I know you're basically different, but still. But having seen the pervert we all knew, it's like, dead. Which, it just says so quickly, it's like, shocking. He goes, maybe. I don't know yet. That's one side, though, I'm not keeping a part of myself. Which, yeah. So, I do think Ravel, though, Wallace basically was talking to Issei Sonic, she doesn't basically really know what to think now. She knows basically how powerful he is, in a sense, but only basically at this current state. His past self, though, as he said, he'll get all his past, basically, strength, speed, and such when he died, he'll get it all back. So she doesn't know. She says in her head, I hope my brother doesn't regret his actions, because I have a feeling he'll basically make this Issei Hudo, or Sonic person, his enemy. I should try and make him my ally. Or, well, at least keep him close. So, in a sense, after he eats and such, basically he would ask his ex, can he go back home and such, because he wants to, his parents are probably worried about him. Which he basically would do so, but along with basically taking everyone back to the human world that came with. Besides, Zerafall. Which Zerafall would ask basically look at Vanilla and Ravel. And basically, Zoltix and Griffia asked, so what do you think of him? Which, Zoltix is like, a very kind person. But, as we already know, troubled by his past. But no, say broken and hurt. And Ravel will be like, and lost. Which she would not be like, so we have to do everything we can to make sure, basically, he's fixed. We need to try to help him. I mean, I know basically Ravel here probably won't, and I can't do much besides be his friend. For now, at least. Which, basically, they kind of look at her like, we need to basically make sure he doesn't, basically want to basically leave this world. He came back for a reason. We gotta see him, we gotta help him go through this to the bitter end. Which, yeah, I think basically just Banana and Zoltus were not. But Ravel was like, I'll think about it after basically my brothers basically meets Rias. So basically that would basically make, Zerafall smile. So, when Issei basically, you go back to Issei when he gets back to the world, he's like, thanks for the basically lift. I gotta grab my stuff and head home. Which, basically, Zex be like, take care, and you can use your speed to get back. Not many people are out tonight. Which, though, Rias would say, goodbye, Issei. Which, basically, he'll nod to that and dash off. So, Sir Zex will be like, I'll talk to mother and father about your punishment. But since you were going to try to fix it, as I told them, it may be lighter than basically what it would have been. She was like, yes, brother. So, basically, after he disappears, we go to Issei when he gets home. Issei's basically parents were already sleeping, but basically, that's what he thinks, but his mom's at the table, sleeping on it. He sighs, and he goes over to her and is like, hey, Mom, wake up. She's like, huh? She just blinked and she was like, Issei, you're home. And then she opens her eye quickly. She was like, you're home! Is everything okay? Why are you out so late? And he just stops her. He's like, sorry, I was asked to come to a club room and I got tired and I fell asleep. She was like, oh. I mean, at least you're alright. He's like, yeah. You must be hungry. I say basically your dinner. She goes over to the microwave, takes out his dinner. Basically showing it, he's like, thanks, Mom. He eats and such, and he goes, Issei, is everything okay? He just looks at her and be like, not really, but I'll tell you when I'm ready. I still need to figure out some things. Which her eyes widen, he actually admits it now, and she nods, and she's like, thank you, Issei. I'll wait. But she goes, alright, Mom. So, after he finishes up, he washes up his dishes, his dish, while his plate and such, heads up to his room, not home, I mean, and then basically gets into pajamas and falls asleep. And that's where we're going to leave it off. Hope you guys have a nice day, night, wherever you are. Bye.